So today we are going to be talking about the club head and its relationship to the handle, or the handle and its relationship to the club head, specifically how they are moving through impact. You can think about this fairly simply by thinking through the terms of where am I putting force through impact? You know, am I pulling on the handle in one way or another, whether that's kind of laterally or rotationally, or with the arms kind of pushing ahead, or is the energy starting to get more into the club head than the handle? So when I talk about this, and the reason why we're kind of talking about it is I surprise a lot of people because if you went out and consumed the majority of content out there, it would lead you to believe that almost everyone struggles with having too much rotation of the club. Everyone is casting or flipping, which in some part is probably true, but there's enough people that are on the other end of the spectrum in one way or another that I think this is a good conversation to have. And again, that is that it is possible to be putting energy through the grip kind of in the wrong direction, putting energy in the grip too kind of drastically or for too long. And we're going to talk about what that looks like. So the first version of things is going to be, again, there are different versions of this, but we're going to try to put some energy through the handle. And we're going to be kind of relaxed and let this just let this just follow whatever is happening on the lead side. So when I get up here and I pull, that is going to have a different set of outcomes than the opposite way around. So I'm going to try my best to really pull through impact across the grip towards the target. And while that's a decent looking shot, what can happen there is it's so uncontrolled. Because I'm pulling rather than rotating, it can start to strike off of the toe. It can not get to the ground as well, and it can be thin, and the face can start to get a little bit too open. For me, I typically don't struggle with the face being too open, so it's a little harder to exaggerate this on the face side of things. But again, lower outcomes that potentially start a little bit more left. We potentially can start to even work the handle up through this and get balls that start more right and fade too much. But again, typically more fades, thinner, more toes, etc. Also, I would kind of have you think about this from a kinematics perspective and what is efficient in delivering energy into the ball. If this were one of those dog toys that we use to launch the tennis ball, you don't throw the tennis ball really far by going horizontal like this. You rotate that toy to throw this side faster so that the tennis ball escapes and goes that way as far as we can get it to throw. Now obviously you do start with some sort of forward energy and then you spin it, but at some point you are rotating that thing to get the tennis ball side to go faster. And the same thing is true here. So whether you think about it from a geometry perspective and the issues I'm creating by kind of pulling the club like this, or you're thinking about it from the perspective of, hey, we don't actually hit the ball with the handle, so this going really fast through impact doesn't necessarily create the outcomes that we're looking for, you can start to see where our problems are going to be and maybe inspire the other thing to start to happen more. There is another version of this that I see with better players or potentially kind of average players, but like are more athletic and have the ability to get a little bit more out of sorts here. And that is, they will rotate their pelvis because they have the ability to do so really far ahead and get a lot of separation from their upper body. Now this could be the separation is happening because they know they're supposed to rotate their hips and then they're trying to keep the shoulders more closed to try and keep the path going straight, as opposed to the chest working with the pelvis and getting the path more across. or potentially they're not worried about the path and they've just gotten up here and they're trying to rip it, and the way they think about ripping it is really rotating the hips like this. But what's going to happen when this segment gets really detached from our lead segment is this is going to reach an end range, and it's not going to be able to add any power. This, because it hasn't accelerated at the appropriate time, is going to start to get really heavy. And it's not super effective at that point to rotate the chest into it. Also, because of what we're doing, we may also see the club be more from the inside than it's supposed to be. It's kind of falling this whole time, not working around. And now I'm stuck in this spot. The chest isn't super useful in trying to get this to go forward. And so what I'm going to do is I'm either going to kind of lift and push and get those pushes, or I'm going to stay here and I'm going to rotate the club head or twist the club head twist the club head into that ball. And you can see it's starting to move pretty effectively into that. But the problem now is that path is coming from the inside, which could lead to a toe shot. And also I'm rotating this and the face is starting to get closed to that path that's now kind of going out to the right by a good amount. And so I'm going to see potentially a huge separation. And then you think about this as well, where would I potentially do that the most? And it's with a 3-wood and driver, where I'm trying to really rip on it and get things going super, super fast. So now that toe strike that may kick in is more consequential with 3-wood and driver. It's going to have that gear effect. And then 2, the face to path is even more consequential. It's so easy to get the ball to spin or to tilt its spin axis that now, I'm getting some really hooky shots out of, again, what we initially said, if this is really fast and it's pulling too hard, would potentially lead to bigger fades. And again, this could lead to like a push fade or something, but typically you're going to see that turn into some snap hooks. On the other side of things, I can get my body to slow down. So I can run up to the ball, I can get my weight traveling forward, and I can get rotation into it. But then, before we've really gotten fully into impact, I can slow down. And now all of a sudden that club head is going to start to catch up. So I'm gonna just kind of sit here and let the club head catch up to me. And so depending on how much twist I do through that, so twist this way, I'm going to get a probably a more exaggerated draw. If I do this, so say I don't, run up all the way, I don't get enough rotation in here. We could see the low point start to dip back because it's catching up too early. We could see some heel strikes potentially out of that, but typically you're just going to see higher shots because we're getting rid of some of our shaft lean, and we're going to see drawier shots, if that's a word. And again, potentially that turns into a push as well, depending on what you're doing. But the kind of letting that club head catch up typically is going to result in more of a draw. The way that you can start to look at this and kind of how we want to get to a more balanced position, or potentially if you're going out to the course and you're behind something, you need to work it, you can figure out how to create an imbalance so as to get the shot shape you're looking for. If you think about there being a laser pointer out of my belly button, and then the club head's relationship to that laser, okay? If I go here and I separate, right? So if I'm trying to separate that laser farther from the club head, typically I'm going to start to create a relationship like this. If the club head starts to catch up to that belly button and potentially even goes through that laser, I'm creating more draw tendencies, right? Or alignments. And then we have the final option, which is what we're trying to get to. And again, you can be on either side of it, but relatively speaking, we're trying to get very close to this. I'm trying to let that club head start to catch up and then use the rest of my force here to keep a balance between these two things into the finish. So it's neither, really pulling super hard on this end, nor this side kind of dominating the conversation. It's definitely tumbling out to it, and then I'm going to use the rest of what I have available to me to keep it balanced to try and hit it straight. So we're going to try to kind of get there. I do have the potential for, just talking about my swing, I do have the potential to kind of get out of whack on both ends here. There are moments, especially when my body is a little bit slower and I'm not as fully warmed up and I'm demoing, very easy for this thing to catch up too much and me to hit an overdraw. And then when my body's feeling good, it's also very easy for me to either get a little too lateral or use this left leg a little too early and just run in front of this just a little bit too much and get a tiny little kind of unexpected push fade. But we're gonna try our best here to feel a nice like rotation of the club head into a nice stand up into the finish and get this balanced. And we'll go through a few shots potentially to work through what we might or what you might do if you're practicing this. So that's not too bad. I missed it just a little bit. But I would say I felt the club head and the finish be pretty much on point. So that's 0 side spin. So obviously the face to path is pretty nice there. Yeah, so I don't really have anything to necessarily adjust there other than the start line a little bit. And again, I kind of missed it a little bit, so maybe I could have stayed down in my lead leg just a fraction longer. That was pretty good. That's more of the shot shape staying on the right side of the target that I like to see. I don't like to see balls kind of end up on the left side because I hit draws. And that's 96 RPMs of left spin. So both of those I would be incredibly happy with. But let's say that I do happen to get ahead of one, so I'll try to hit a good shot, but it's kind of just a little bit forward of it. So like that is a miss that I could very easily see. I exaggerated it a little bit, but it's path right, it's pretty solid. The face is just stuck in that open position, not because I've gotten in here and twisted, not because my grip was bad or anything like that. I just very much applied a little bit more oomph here before that club had fully caught up. And so I slipped just past where I want to be at impact. So that face maybe would have caught up here, but I had already hit the ball there. So what I would do is I would go in potentially, depending on how bad my feels are, how bad I'm moving, I might go in and really try to hit an overdraw here just by keeping my knees and legs down and kind of feeling like that handle is slowing down. And so I could be completely fine with that outcome if I'm trying to create feels for myself. And then what I would do off of that, again, that's not a successful outcome because it looked pretty. It was a successful outcome because I felt myself not jump into the finish and jump past the ball. And so then what I would do from there is I would just try to blend it back into something that's a little bit straighter. So I'm still gonna feel it kick a little bit more. I'm not gonna be super early on it, but I'm gonna try to what maybe feels like just past impact, give it a little bit more leg and a little bit more rotation. And so we still see potentially a slight overdraw here, but I balanced that a lot there by giving it just a little bit more. So I felt it catch up, and then right before it totally caught up, I gave it a little bit more. So that's 217 RPMs left, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're on the other end of things, if you need more of this, then you would just go through what I did in reverse. So again, just to recap, the more we push or pull on the grip, the more thin, open, potentially toey we're gonna have. Sometimes guys will kind of get enough flip in here at the end to create an overdraw. And then on the other end, if I'm kind of shut down and I'm not rotating or getting my weight forward enough, so I don't have enough getting the handle forward, this club head's gonna catch up too early. At times the faces, or a lot of times the face is gonna be too closed. Low point potentially too far back, adding too much loft, etc. Play with that, figure out how to get things or what should be moving together so that we can get this in sync, and that's that.